The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bethinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Dom. Hi, Father Corey. Hi, everybody.
And hi, Father Corey.
How's it going, both of you?
Very well. Father Corey Stika, of course. I got that mixed up. Got him back.
No, the other Father Corey that's involved with SQPN.
Yes.
gee.
Yeah. So, we're back together again to talk about technology, the technology news. And one of the biggest topics in technology right now is this topic of how big is big tech? Is big tech too big? And should it be broken up? Should it be regulated? And what's interesting about this is that it has become a rare point of agreement on both sides of the political aisle. Both Republican Democrats, conservatives, and liberals are all talking about the problem of big technology. And when they're in agreement, you know there's a potential problem here.
It is funny though, because they're in agreement that tech is big, but it's because of the other guys that are involved.
Right. It's because they're too liberal or they're too conservative and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I want to approach this topic, discuss this topic. I don't want to make it a political discussion. Of course, I think all the three of us are in general political agreement anyway. But it's not. This isn't really about political leaning. Like I said, this is a bipartisan issue. We can bring it up, the different points of view, but we're not pushing a particular point of view. But one of the things that has come up is this idea that big tech has gotten too big, too powerful, with too much control over society. And so what does that mean? What is it? What are the ramifications for us? What are the pros and cons of these big tech companies? One of the things that's come up is this ability of, and the first part of this I want to kind of talk about is the ability of tech companies to force their virtues, and I put virtues in air quotes. I'm making air quotes right now with my fingers, to force their virtues on the rest of us. They, for example, whether Google employees who are morally opposed to the company being involved with the military, or morally opposed to Amazon doing business with fossil fuel companies, or things like having to do with social issues, whether it's family or sexuality or reproductive issues, the morality of abortion and these other issues. When the company's leaders or enough of their employees have a particular point of view that they can push this on us against our will. They're not elected, but they wield incredible power to force their beliefs on the rest of us by the way that they enforce their speech codes. For example, on Facebook, what they allow you to post, or Amazon, what things they allow to be sold, or Google, how they shape search. So let's talk about that part first, this part of their ability to force their virtues. What is the danger, and are we overstating it by putting it that way? What do you think, Father Corey?
I struggle a little bit about this because I'm very much of the free market capitalist type of ideals of if you don't like Facebook, don't use it. If you don't like YouTube, don't use it. But that being said, there are a lot of people on these networks, and there are a lot of people whose voices aren't being heard because of these issues. And again, this is nothing to do with being left or right, conservative or liberal, pro-life, pro-choice, whatever split you want to use. Because, okay, so today there's one group that is being isolated by Facebook. But tomorrow, the popular ideas could change, and what is seen as acceptable could change. And all of a sudden now, the people who are riding high with Facebook and YouTube and so on, they could find themselves on the outs really quick. And I don't think people calling for censorship really realize that. And yes, I know it's not strictly censorship because that's government, but there is corporate censorship. The corporation is censoring certain voices. And they'll say, well, it's extremism. But are these legitimately extreme views, or are they just views that are currently out of fashion?
or some views are extreme and and aren't acceptable in a public square. But where is the line get drawn on what is acceptable and unacceptable? It's a continuum as opposed to a bright point, but they have to draw that bright point. One of the things you mentioned is if you don't like it, don't use it. But Joanne, maybe it's the case now that we're in a situation where if you aren't on Facebook or you aren't in Google or you aren't on one of these platforms, for all intents and purposes, you're not in the public square. You don't exist and that's becoming increasingly true as the next generation rises up who live in these places, and they aren't in the in the real world as much as we used to be. What do you think of that?
Well, it's interesting that you use the phrase "the real world" because I'm wondering what is the real world anymore.
Right?
Is the real world online, or is the real world where flesh meets flesh? In the marketplace. I mean, I'm not quite sure anymore. I'm not one who has a presence on every single social media site. I don't. I have Facebook because of my jobs, where I've had to tend Facebook pages for parishes. And I have a podcast, and a dormant podcast that I have a Facebook page for. But that's it. I stopped using Twitter, even though I still have a handle there and a presence. I'm not on Pinterest. I'm not on Instagram. You can call me a dinosaur. And maybe that's why I look a little bit. I kind of agree with you, Father Corey, because I'm sitting here going, if I don't like it, I'm not going to use it. If I could get off Facebook, I actually would. I think they will too much influence over the young, especially.
Right.
And I think that I look at the whole thing about big tech, and I remember back to, and I can remember this, where the phone company was big tech. It owned everything. Yes. And then when it split,
Bell had to be broken up.
Yeah, but did it? Because now that it got broken up, it sort of tried to find its way back to each other. Right. And they're reattaching each other themselves. I'm wondering if the same thing will happen here. If we break up the likes of Apple or Google or Facebook, are they in some way going to find themselves reattaching themselves? And maybe not in a good way. I don't know what the answer is.
And does the old version of breaking up, whereas we cut them up into separate corporate entities with their own boards and that sort of thing, does that change anything? It does, because the mindset is what's at issue here. The mindset of not just of the corporate overlords, the executives, but even just of the employees and the managers and the people in the trenches who have a unified mindset in some cases of doing things that aren't necessarily written down in a corporate policy statement. If you break up Facebook, and I'm not sure how that works. Like, what does Facebook become? Because okay, you could break off WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook into three separate entities, but how does that change Facebook itself? Do you break it up into the ad part and the not ad part? Like, it just doesn't. So there's a couple issues here. One of them is, are these politicians who are talking about breaking up these companies still thinking of these companies the way we thought of antitrust and physical corporations 50 years ago when Ma Bell got broke up, or 40 years ago? Which doesn't really apply to modern day electronic companies. So it's backward thinking. But even what does it mean to break them up? What is the goal of breaking them up going to be? What is it? Or do we just, as opposed to breaking them up like that? And it's one of the things like Elizabeth Warren has suggested, or we regulate them like utilities. But then what does that look like? How do we regulate them in a way that fixes it?
Because I think that's the bigger question. And I know that's the question that's been asked for about 15, 20 years with a lot of these internet sites like YouTube, especially Facebook. They kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, where they say, we're just a platform. We don't actually produce the content. We have nothing to do with the content, so you can't sue us over the content. And yet they want to be able to control the content on their platform. And
part of that is because when they started doing that, then unacceptable content started proliferating, including bad things like terrorists coordinating terrorist action with each other and that sort of stuff. So this bad content started proliferating, and then we said through our politicians, "Oh no, you can't just call yourself a conduit. You are a safe harbor, and you have to regulate what shows up there."
Exactly, and that's they they don't I know what they're trying to avoid, these tech companies. They don't want to become like the telephone companies where it's very restricted of what they can do. A telephone company cannot yank your phone line because you made a phone call to a terrorist.
Right.
Right.
They cannot do that. They cannot touch it. They can't hang up your phone call if you're calling a terrorist. You can't, they can't do anything about it. But they're also so highly regulated on exactly what they can do. And that's what the tech companies don't want. Facebook doesn't want to wake up tomorrow and find all of a sudden they're being treated like AT&T. And they have to do X, Y, and Z, and they have to ensure A, B, and C. And oh, by the way, if you're going to charge anything, you have to charge this much, and. That's what they're trying to avoid.
Well, and then so we have the social media problem. Then we have a related issue with a company like Amazon, which has grown so big that it's essentially become, in many ways, e-commerce itself. It does. I forget what the number is. I had it in my head, but it does some enormous percentage of all online sales online, not just directly from their own warehouses, but they're also a marketplace. Now, I could see an antitrust action coming in and saying, all right, you need to separate your third-party marketplace stuff from your selling it directly stuff. And that could be okay.
And I think that would be fair, because I know in the case of my husband, he always has to keep asking me, is this from Amazon itself or is this from a third party? It's unclear to a lot of people where they're getting it from. They're saying, I'm getting it from Amazon. But are you really? And is the third party, is the third party going to uphold? They should uphold the policies of Amazon. But sometimes, the stuff we've gotten from third parties has been less than quality.
Yes.
Well, and of course, you throw they've got like 3 tiers where you've got Amazon provides it, Amazon sells it. You've got another company sells it, but Amazon is actually providing it. And then you've got the other company both selling and providing.
Yeah, shipping directly from them.
Yeah. And then of course on top of this, and I know one of the articles you linked to, Dom, was about the how Amazon Web Services is increasingly being used by the fossil fuel industry, coal, natural gas, gasoline, things like that. That their employees are upset about that. Now, mind you, I wonder how many of their employees drove to work or rode on a bus or a train that was powered by fossil fuels, but that's just me.
Or an electric car that was charged by fossil fuels. We've talked about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I can understand the concern about the environment, but to say that because big oil is using Amazon Web Services, they don't have a care for the environment, that's a bunch of bunk. I'm sorry,
That's an interesting. So a couple of interesting points. Amazon is more than just a store. Amazon's web services runs a significant portion of the whole internet, of all the services used run through Amazon service. But there's actually an interesting question there, is how much, and this is more of almost even a bigger question than just high tech. How much should companies be involved in pushing particular morality or points of view or virtues, or however you want to put it, through the way they do business and who they choose to do business with?
Well, I was going to say my biggest question with all of the reading that you gave us was how all of a sudden are these employees, it's almost like the tail wagging the dog. All of a sudden the employees have a voice. I was always taught, if you don't work for a company that you wouldn't want to work for, find a company that you would feel comfortable working for, or a group of people. I don't understand why all of a sudden employees are saying, well, now you have to change the way you do business.
Well, that raises another interesting point. These all things it's a complex issue and all connected. And that raises an interesting point of the way people think about where they work and who they work for today. In the past, especially for those of us of our generation, Father Corey, a little differently, I guess, for you, but although in the past, perhaps, we worked for a company. We went to work, got a paycheck, went home, and maybe we had some corporate loyalty or, employee-employer loyalty of some sort. But now, especially in the high tech, partly because the demand for qualified, talented engineers and other people is so high, that there's so much recruiting, that these companies become like part of your life, like part of your family. People go to work at Amazon or Google or Apple, one of these places, and it's not just the place I go 9 to 5. They practically live there. They have their laundry, their dry cleaning done there, and they have their haircut done there, and they eat like 2 out of their 3 meals a day there, and so on and so forth. And it becomes not just the place I work, and it's encouraged. These companies encourage people to identify as I am this company, and that's also part of the issue.
And that's scary.
When Google opened up their current campus, I remember there was a big push about all the, the different, not just cafeterias, but actual restaurants on campus and rooms where they could go rest if they want to go take a nap. They're doing an all-night coding session, they want to go take a nap, and recreation areas and this and that, and all these things that were they're good things for the employees, but they were encouraging employees to basically shut off the rest of the world and become Google. Apple's done the same thing. I'm sure Facebook has done the same thing, where the focus is you're going to be living, eating, breathing, sleeping, drinking Google.
And there isn't a separation between work and personal life. We use Slack as the way we organize our SQPN shows. Well, these companies have similar tools, and yet and people live in them, and they create interest groups related to not just work, but hobbies. The mountain bikers group at Amazon or whatnot, but also particular viewpoints and even political viewpoints and social issue viewpoints, all in a work environment, which I thought that wasn't, I thought HR had.
Used to be discouraged from doing that. I guess I think of the companies I've worked for before I became a priest, before I entered the seminary. If we had gotten up and told our boss, we're not going to do this because, oh, that's fine. You're not going to do that. We can find others. And it's that simple. Shut up and work. And that's not the mindset. Kind of rotating back a little bit, you kind of asked about these tech companies taking these stands. And of course, that's not something unique to tech. We're right in the middle of a month where every company is about falling over itself to say how important it thinks a certain kind of pride is. So this isn't something unique to tech, but it is kind of the culture we're in right now. Is your company can't just go and do business. Coca-Cola can't just go out there and do business. They have to show how woke they are by making sure they have rainbow colored cans this month, things like that.
Right, right. There was, in fact, there was an article from the New York Post that I've linked to, and I don't know if you got a chance to see that, by a columnist, F.H. Buckley, How to Stop the Woke Social Media Censors. And he goes into some of the stuff about how people are getting censored from social media, from other places, because of these woke policies, these socially enlightened policies, where you don't fit in anymore. You don't. Your brand of humor is we used to call it politically incorrect, but now even that has become not quite enough to describe it. And you're right. There was this time when there was a shut up and work or get a new job attitude. And maybe I'm going to say that wasn't the way it should be. I mean, we should be able to be human beings and bring our humanity and our morality with us to our job. But there is a limit to how much we can expect a company to conform to us, and not the other way around, where we have to say, well, this isn't conformed to the way I see the world. So I have to make a decision. I'm not entitled to this job, so I will have to leave this job to and suffer of some sort to go find a job that works for my worldview and the way I do things. And I will have to pay a price for that. But that is something I choose to do because my morale is important to me. Well, a lot of that's overgeneralization. Some people don't see that as something that they should have to do anymore. And they think that their company should conform to a particular worldview. There isn't a legitimate difference of opinion. There's right and wrong, and there's a worldview now which says I'm right and that everything else is wrong.
I mean, that's a whole nother issue you can discuss too, though, not just, again, not just with tech, because I mean, it really is that mindset of, if you disagree with me on something that I think is vital, you are Satan incarnate. It doesn't matter if you even disagree in a slight bit. I mean, there's people that they really kind of take it to that extreme. If I view that this particular view is something that it must be my way, this is how it must be, how dare you disagree?
I was going to say, wow, what an entitled bunch we've become.
Yeah.
And I guess because of my age, I'm looking back at a world that I knew before all of this. And now I'm really mourning that because, I mean, for example, to get back into the tech thing, I'm an Apple person. I am very happy in my little walled garden, but I see everything I use in technology as useful to my purpose in life, which is to spread the gospel. Okay, that's the life I've chosen. Even as a layperson, that's what I do. So I don't get into all of any of this other stuff. And so I don't sometimes notice that an Apple is too big or Google is doing that. I'm just using their products, the things that they've developed, to further the agenda that I have, which is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. So
I guess from their point of view, they're doing the same thing in that they have an agenda that they want to advance. They have a worldview or point of view that they want to advance, and they want to use this technology to do that. And of course, but the way they do that is different. They want to do that by having the companies enforce this through the way you can use the technology, as opposed to say that for us, for me at least, I want it to have this medium, just be a medium, just be the technology, be a way that conveys my voice or other, my point of view outward, and people can choose to hear it, accept it, reject it, however, as opposed to, the technology can only be used a certain way. I don't want to go out there and silence other people and remove them from the platforms, because that's just it's a very dangerous thing. I don't want to overstate it, but there's a dystopian future in which corporations are bigger than nation states, and they get to impose borders and laws and regulations that have nothing to do with countries that we know today. And that's the worry, I think, that a lot of people have about these big tech companies and why they're talking about breaking them up or regulating them. But if we do break them up, we do regulate them, what is the price we're going to pay? What is the danger in doing this? So let's talk about that quickly. What is the danger in breaking up or at least regulating these companies more than we are now?
Probably the people who want to do the regulating don't know how to do it.
Right.
That's the scary part. Is Congress going to regulate all this? We see what, right, exactly. Well, that's my point. Supposedly we still live in a free society, and free enterprise is supposed to still be, the thing that companies go for. But if you start regulating,
who writes the regulations too?
Right, exactly.
Not the congressman, the senator. They don't sit down and write it. By and large, a lot of times these laws are drafted by, written by, or ghost written by the people in the industry themselves. Lobbyists. And these companies are spending big money on lobbyists. Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon have all drastically increased the amount of money they're spending on lobbyists.
Well, and then there's always the question of who watches the watchmen. You know darn well that these people who right now are trying to force Amazon and Google and all these other tech companies to do their way, these employees, if they became regulated, they would just become the regulators. They just go jump ship over to the regulators, and they'd be the ones telling Google, no, you need to censor this. Facebook, you can't let this guy be on your platform.
And yet in the past, when we've had this question, we've relied on, okay, the fourth estate watches the watchers. The journalists, the reporters, they'll dig in. And even if we had reporters and journalists who were not in lockstep intellectually with these people, even if we had opposition journalism, which there's still some out there, how do they get that message out? Well, by and large, it goes through Facebook and Twitter and Google and all of these other tech companies.
I can guarantee you the New York Times does not have a massive server farm in their basement. They're using Amazon Web Services.
Right.
I can guarantee it. If they're not using Amazon, they're using one of the other ones, Google's or whoever.
But even if it's on their website, how does anybody know that it's there? I mean, they have their own subscribers and readers, but beyond that, well, in order to spread a news story, it has to be posted somewhere. And in order to be posted somewhere, that place has to allow it. And we've already had instances of people pointing out, we're trying to post stuff on Pinterest, for example. There's a story about how on Pinterest, pro-life groups have been shadow banned or outright listed among porn sites as not acceptable content by the leaking of internal documents. So if we can't even get the message out, how do we know? I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or a totalitarian Big Brother theorist by nature, but you have to think about these things. We have to worry about it a little bit to say we've got to be concerned. I mean, I keep coming back to the concerns I have about not breaking them up. I am concerned about what the whole issue of do we pay a price if we do break them up, or if we do, there's certainly a price in innovation, right? If we break up Apple, if we break up Google, or then we say you can't, Facebook, you can't have this whole site be one thing. It has to be two different things. That puts a crimp in our ability to, like, one of the reasons we like these things is because they work together seamlessly. So there's a price that we have to be willing to pay for this a goal that we have, right? Or is there another solution?
If there's another solution, I can't think of it right now.
I mean, the thing I keep kind of coming back to, though, at least like, good, and Facebook is always one of the big five, but how many stories do we read about how Facebook, its average age is getting older? So people are already moving past Facebook. I mean, Facebook is still, it's still the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Don't get me wrong. It's still huge.
Where have they gone?
It's still influential.
That's the question. They've gone to Instagram. And who owns Instagram?
Some of them, but there's others as well. Snapchat and things like that too. If I knew where they were at, I'd be there because I'd rather be with the younger ones than with some. No, I'm kidding.
So yeah,
hey,
just kidding.
Snapchat. That's actually a good point. Snapchat was the darling of the younger set. It still is in a large sense, but it has kind of been overshadowed because Instagram has come along and sucked up some of its best features as the user point of view, with like Instagram stories. But it also, Instagram is by and large it's a much less political space, much less topical space, because it's about photos and shopping and that sort of food and that sort of things. I mean, it's sometimes shallower, but at least less charged environment, shall we say? So there are a lot of young people who've gone there, but who owns Instagram? Facebook does. So they're not so concerned about people moving from Facebook to Instagram because they, that's just the left hand to the right hand. I know people who have moved to MeWe or Mayway or whatever, however you pronounce it. I don't know. I've never heard it said by someone from the company, which is a sort of ad-free version of Facebook, which
looks similar. It's a little different, but it's similar. Yeah.
But frankly, the problem with giving up a Facebook or a Twitter or YouTube is, well, that's where everybody is. And so unless everybody moves, you're leaving everybody behind. And so you could be the first one to go, but it's going to be awfully quiet until everybody joins you, if they ever do.
But who is your everybody? I mean, for me, it's folks. I have a lot of professional contacts, and they're on Facebook. We have private Facebook groups, and that's where we congregate. The general people in Facebook, I pretty much ignore for the most part. So it's where your people are. You go wherever your people are.
Honestly, if I could get everybody that into a Slack team, I would, and it would be a nice private Slack team. But I also, both my wife and I, we have a very large, diverse group of friends, of people we went to school with, at college, high school, neighbors, family, across all kinds of barriers. And there's that danger of, if I limit that to just family or just people who I go to church with, I'm sort of limiting my worldview as well. And I'm being less open to other points of view and less, so we become ever more siloed. And I'm afraid of that. I want a big open town square where everybody can talk, and everybody can, I can ignore anybody I want to. I could mute people. I could even block people, but that where everybody is. And that would be the ideal. That's that's the way it was supposed to be, but we've lost that.
Isn't that the irony of Facebook and Twitter? Because that was their promises. Their promise was, you could hear all kinds of views, but it's pretty well turned into the silos. It's pretty well turned into the, block them off. And if I don't agree, I'm going to block you. I'm not going to listen to what you have to say anymore. It's kind of, that's kind of the irony we've fallen into, is we do that already anyways.
Right. Then the question is, does this solution make the problem worse, or does it make it better? And that's what the one thing that concerns me is we need to, whatever we do needs to be improving the situation and not making it worse. One of the other bits that comes up is it's not just social media or shopping like through Amazon, or even search, which is a whole nother issue, but things like app stores. Who gets to say, we've talked about this in the past, but who gets to say what apps get allowed in different stores? Apple has very strict rules about their store, what can go in and what can't. Some of it's good. They don't allow porn. They don't allow hate stuff. It's a very curated walled garden, the App Store. However, that does limit things. PBS just came out, I think it was today or yesterday, saying that their with the new App Store rules about what the data they can collect from young people may force some of their PBS Kids app out of the App Store because they need that analytics, they say. Whereas with Google, they have, with Android, it's much more wide open. You can sideload apps and that sort of thing. But even then, there's still talk about regulating the Apple and Google's app stores, and whether it should be antitrust regulations on them. What do you think about the App Store issues and antitrust issues?
Again, I look at it from the Android standpoint of, if I don't, as a matter of fact, I just saw it today and I don't remember the name of it, but there's an alternative app store that has a lot of the same apps, including stuff like Facebook and Twitter and all that. But it's not Google's. It's not Amazon's. It's something that's completely different. And of course, it's going to be Wild West if you do that. But you can do that. I have the Android, or I have the Amazon App Store on my phone. So I could pull, if there is something that Google decide I shouldn't have, but Amazon says it's fine, I can. But you're still running into the same issues, and it's, of course, we all come from the era when if you wanted a software package on your computer, you had to go and buy the disk, put it in your computer, install it, and run it. Or in the case of my old Commodore 64, you put this disk in and run it from the disk, So the idea of an app store was like, you're joking, right?
Well, there was an app store. It was called CompUSA, or one of these other
exactly.
businesses.
Exactly.
There some of the complaint is developers have to go through Apple or Google and give them as much as 30% of their app sales. And I'm thinking to myself, well, welcome to retail. Sure, you could stand on a street corner and sell your stuff and not have to give that percentage. But the fact is the whole point of retail is I'm giving you a percentage of my sales because you're the one who has the relationship with my customers. And suddenly we want to change all that because it's digital and apps. And so I have to wonder, has digital changed things so much that we need to completely rethink these relationships, or are we overstating what the change needs to be for this? For example, the government regulators, are they missing the point that it's not all that different from what we already had? Or is someone trying to take advantage of saying, oh, this is different, this is new, now we can finally implement the things we've always wanted to do all along?
See, I'm pretty happy with the App Store in Apple. I don't have a lot of need to go outside of it. I understand that people do. So I'm okay with that. But would it be nice to have something else? Well, on my Mac, for example, I can get third-party apps. So sometimes, yes, I do get it. Am I trying to skirt the, 30% chunk that they're taking out? Not really. Somebody's got to make a living somehow. Again, isn't this a free market? But I don't know. I guess there are always going to be people who want to push a boundary, who want something more than what they have. I guess I'm just a content person. And I think there are a lot of people out there who are.
as a power user, I wish I had on my iPad, my iPhone, what I could do on my Mac, which is I can go to the App Store, or I can just go out and get an app that I know will work for me the way I want it to work. And if I don't want Apple to ever change that about the Mac, adding a third-party apps. However, there's also the certainty or the safety of, for my mom or my wife, that if they want an app, they go to the Mac App Store and they download an app from there, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to kill their computer or introduce a virus or open up their information to being sucked away by malware. So there's the what do I want personally, and then what is good for the overall community. In some ways it's sort of like a vaccine question, which I'm not getting into, and whole anti-vaxxer arguments here.
That's another argument.
That's a whole different podcast. But that there's that idea of I can see both sides of it. But what I don't want is I don't want that dictated by the developers complaining that they're not getting enough of my data. From my point of view, the way the Apple App Store works now is in the user's best interest more so than it is in a developer or marketer's best interest. And they're the ones who are really kind of complaining. The developers or marketers will say, well, it's better for the user if we get the data that we want. But let's be honest. These are the same people shoveling freemium games at us too and sucking all our money up that way. So I don't necessarily trust them to really have our best interest at heart in that.
True.
Just remember with the uproar about Facebook selling data, it's like, no kidding. That's what Facebook exists for. They are there to get your data and sell it. That's how they make money. If you're not, what's the saying? If you're not paying for it, you're the product.
Right. If you're not buying the product, you are the product. And that was always the way with TV, for example. When you watched over-the-air network television, those shows were being made for the advertisers in a sense. We creating a show that will attract as many eyeballs as possible for your products. The show exists to show your ads. And that that's the reality. And we all bought into that contract. It was nice because then I didn't have to pay HBO for a channel to watch TV. I didn't have to pay NBC to watch TV. I could just turn on my TV. So one of the things that, besides the whole question of taking the 30% off the top of the App Store, then there's this question of, well, should Google and Apple be able to create products in their App Store that compete with the developers? Is it fair that Apple has Pages, and which is free? So I'm not sure that applies. But this was Elizabeth Warren's argument. If you run a platform where others come to sell, then you don't get to sell your own items on the platform. That was her argument for why the app stores should be separated from their parent companies. What do you think of that?
Well, let's be honest. How many times has Apple Sherlocked somebody? And they just did it with Duet and Luna and their new sidecar.
But they're not selling that separately.
Right,
it's just part of the operating system.
Well, and I guess I wonder, going back to how it was back in the old days, how is this any different than Microsoft selling Windows and Microsoft Word when there was Word Perfect?
Yes.
I mean, and admittedly, and Word won because it actually was the far superior word processor. I liked Word Perfect, but it, especially the Windows version, paled to what Microsoft Word could do, in my opinion, at least. But how is this any different than, okay, yeah, so you got Pages on the Apple Store, but you also have Google Docs. You also have Microsoft Office 365 there. There's other options.
Pages and Docs are both free, by the way, as well. And that whole Microsoft thing actually came up back in the 90s. There was a Department of Justice antitrust investigation, and it came down that the benefits outweighed the negatives. I mean, the fact is, having things integrated like that was a benefit to the user. And frankly, we're better off because I can get a high quality word processor like Pages for free on my iPad or on my Mac when I want it. I mean, and if somebody wants to make a better one, I'll buy it. In fact, I pay for Microsoft Word because it has features that I need. That and certainly Excel is better than Numbers, and I pay for that because it's the better product. And maybe that's the way it should be working, is that the free market should work that way. as opposed to having, government bureaucrats come and say, this isn't fair.
Yeah, I were, just for example, I use Word probably because more people do. Okay. And so it's easier for me to do that. Yet I will use Pages if I want to use something like Microsoft's Publisher, because it will do a lot of that stuff. Okay. And of course, if there's between Keynote and PowerPoint, I'm sorry, I'm using Keynote any day of the week.
Same here.
Because it's just that much better. So I think it should be left to the consumer as to what product fits your needs. So if it's in the App Store, and believe me, you can't tell me that there isn't a product in an App Store that isn't going to fit your need.
Well, for example, I use Airmail instead of the built-in mail app because it does it better.
So do I.
I use Fantastical instead of the built-in calendar app. I use Card Hop instead of the built-in contacts app, because all of these products, what was it that the developer of PC Calc said recently? He said, when Apple does a solution, when he Sherlocks you, he says, that's fine. He's made a living making a calculator app for 30 years. Why? Because when Apple does it, it's a 70% solution. They're just doing it for the majority of people who only need to make a couple things. He's a small developer who can aim at the 100%, that other 30% of people who need more, and that's enough space for someone like him.
And again, how many times have you heard that the average Microsoft Word user uses literally 5% of what that software package can do? They open it up, they change some fonts, they add a graphic, they do their typing, whatever they're sending, they're writing, whatever, and they print it. They don't do anything fancy with it. They're not doing mail merge. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. It's very simple. The average user does very simple. Well, Pages does that well. Google Docs does that well. The open source options out there does that good. Heck, TextPad in Mac does that well.
Right. You can do that in Preview. You can do it. I mean, I have a half a dozen different word processing type or text editor apps on my computer that for different reasons. I use BB Edit because it manipulates code and text and stuff. I use Ulysses because it organizes better than the others. I mean, I use Evernote because it's a second brain and its search and clipping is better. I use different apps for different reasons. And if you took that away, I think you don't think you get diversity, you get shovelware. If you take away the gate, you end up with, I mean, already there's a problem in some of these app stores where, in fact, Apple has been trying to clean this up, where you'll have VPN apps that are really just data suckers. There's 100, 200 different apps that claim to be VPN. We've talked about VPNs recently on this show, all these programs, they aren't actually safeguarding your data. They're actually being nosy about it. They're looking at your data as it flows through. Because they're all, and so Apple has to tighten up the rules and can get rid of those. And in fact, they could pull those off. If there's a malware, they could pull it off your phone for you. Some people are like, oh, they can reach right in. Well, yeah, but it saves your data, saves your bacon too.
There is always that opposite side though. Well, if they can pull malware off, what about other apps that they don't want that you want? So
a few years ago, before tethering was a generally available option from the likes of AT&T and Verizon, there was a tethering app on the iPhone and the App Store that people were downloading and using, and I remember AT&T did not like that, and they had it pulled from the store. But Apple did not pull it from phones because they said it's while AT&T doesn't like it, it is not a malware. It does not break the phone. It does not expose people to, and again, these are people who run these institutions, and they can change their outlook on life, can be different people and make different policies. But as it stands, they've been doing generally the right thing in a lot of these cases. This is a tough issue. I mean, and as we've already talked about so far, it ranges widely over all of technology. We're not going to solve it here, and it's not going to be solved in sound bites during an election year, certainly. But what I would encourage is that all of us keep reading, keep informed. We'll keep talking about it here on Secrets of Technology, and this needs to be a part of the conversation. And importantly, people need to become educated about it, especially those who are not tech heads like us. So I think so. We'll come back to this topic in the future. So that said, let's move on to something. Well, I always think of as the fun part of the show, where I either look at things I want to buy that I can't have right now, or things that I can download because they're free or what have you. So Father Corey, why don't you go ahead first? We're going to do our picks of the week. So what's your pick of the week first?
Well, speaking of things that Dom wants to buy, he's been sitting there drooling over my pick this week.
Yes.
Because, last time I was on, I talked about having to, my pick was iFixit because I had to replace the battery in my MacBook Pro. Well, while I was in there, I threw in a SSD upgrade. I upgraded the hard drive, the solid state drive inside of it. And it comes from a company called Otherworld Computing, OWC. And they've been, if you've been in Macs, you've heard of them. You know, they've been around for a long time doing upgrades for memory, for hard drives, for video cards, you name it. You know, they've been involved for a long time with the Mac upgrade world. Well, I picked up their Aurora SSD X2 upgrade kit and Aurora Pro X2. And it's their current version of the SSDs for things like my Mac Pro. I've got an early 2015 Mac Pro. MacBook Pro, excuse me. I wish I had a Mac Pro. I can't afford those. MacBook Pro. And they're simple to upgrade. Literally it was, I pull the bottom off, it's right there. You unscrew a couple of screws, pop it out, put the new one in, put the bottom back on, and done. The nice thing about this one, you can get it two ways. You can either get just the SSD itself, or you can get the SSD plus enclosure. You can get an external enclosure that's USB 3.3.1. So it's top of the line USB enclosure where you can put the old one in there and use it as an external hard drive, external SSD. So definitely happy with it. And, they advertise that it's going to cause a performance increase, and it's not been dramatic, but I have noticed my Mac runs just a little bit faster when it's copying things from the SSD. So it definitely does what it says. Yeah, so I definitely check that out. If you've been thinking about it, I had a 256 gig SSD, and it was always bumping up to that. Your hard drive is almost full. Your hard drive is almost full. It's like, yes, I know. Shut up.
Constantly having to delete things. That's what I do with my laptop.
Don't see that anymore because I went up to the 1 terabyte model, and you can get, of course, different. The more money you want to spend, the bigger the SSD you can get. I paid $350 through one of those big evil tech companies, Amazon, for the SSD plus the enclosure. So check it out. It's worth it. It was a very good purchase. And since I already had my Mac open. Oh, and by the way, the kit also comes with the tools you need. It comes with the screwdrivers you need to open it. That's another plus.
And you can even get the case that you can put your old SSD into it and keep using it.
Yeah, that's what the enclosure. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It goes up to 2 terabytes in size, which is interesting. That's nice. Wow.
You got to teach me how to do this, Father Corey.
Oh, it's so easy. Yeah, I mean,
it really is.
They have videos on their site. I'll put a link to the site.
Okay.
They have, but also iFixit has great videos as well.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It literally was undo about 12, at least on mine was undo like 12 screws on the bottom, open it up, the SSD's right there, another screw, pull it out, put a new one in, reverse.
And it's the MacBooks, it's the late 2013 to 2015 MacBook Pros, the 13 and 15 inch. They have MacBook Airs. There's a Mac Minis. So there's a couple different models.
And that's the one I linked to. It has different models, but of course they've got other versions of this for other Macs as well.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, they have pretty much the whole line you can get solid state drives for. Even Blackmagic cameras. Wow, this is amazing. Yeah, Max. So it's OWC, and they're the place where you can buy them. You also buy it directly from them at maxsales.com. I'll put the links to both.
This is Dom's toy store.
Oh, I have purchased things from Max Sales and OWC for many years. Yes, it is very dangerous. All right, so let's move on before I buy something. Joanne, save me some money. What have you got for me?
Yeah, that's my deal today, is saving money rather than spending it. A while back, we changed from the mobile company that begins with a V to T-Mobile. And it was because we were over a certain age. And it's true. T-Mobile has a very diverse, and I don't work for them, so let me put that disclaimer in, but they have a very diverse set of plans. They have a military one. They have all kinds of ones, but they do have one for folks over 55. and it was a significant savings. We saved about $65-$70 a month between these plans. They call it now the Magenta Unlimited 55 plan, and there's two of them. They have a basic plan and a premium plan. But we're talking, even the premium plan, it's $45 a line for 2 lines, okay? And it's usually folks over 55, you're empty nesters, you've got just 2 people. And it's unlimited talk, text, no limits. You get 20 gig of mobile hotspot. Now, this is important. If you go somewhere, but it's 10 gig each phone. Okay, but that's still good when you're out and about and you can't get on an internet and you don't want to use a VPN. So you just hook it up to your phone, your computer, or your tablet, and you can get it from there. The streaming on the phones themselves is HD, and this plan comes with Netflix on Us. Now, because I like my Netflix a little bit better, they only provide standard, but I have a little bit next tier up in Netflix. But I think it's a good plan because you're spending baseline, and this is without taxes, $90 a month.
So Netflix on Us is when you access Netflix through your phone, it doesn't count against your mobile data, correct?
No, I believe, I don't have it, but what I believe it is that you can get Netflix for yourselves, for your house. You can only put 2 screens on it.
Oh,
okay. So whether it's the lowest
Netflix
tier.
Oh, I see.
They said they were doing that purposely. They were on, I guess, the middle tier, but now they've dropped down to the lowest tier. But that's okay if you're looking to start. If you want to save some money on Netflix.
I see. Yep.
Here's what you do. Now that's $90 a month. If you have a watch like I do, it's another $10.
If you have a 4G watch.
Right. If you have a 4G watch, if you have a cellular tablet, it's another 10. But I think that the price and the service, depending on where you are, is comparable, if not just as good as Verizon or AT&T. We've experienced very little droppage, and we go up north in New England, and you figure up there you'd lose it. We don't.
I noticed you get unlimited in-flight Wi-Fi on the GoGo service. If you travel a lot,
cool.
That would be huge too.
Yeah, I think T-Mobile's become like the little company that, the little engine that could. It's becoming that type of a company. Plus they have their T-Mobile Tuesdays, and I've been saving 10 cents a gallon on gas for the last 3 months.
Wow.
And the thing with T-Mobile is they bought out Sprint earlier this year, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So problem with T-Mobile is if you live in an area that's really rural, like say Montana. Of course, I live where Verizon is your only game in town. So.
And again, it's not for everybody, but folks over 55, I know, are looking to downsize a little bit, and this could be one way that will help them. And I've looked at the comparable ones for Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile still is beating them, and their service is good. So I would suggest that to folks who are looking to still have the perks of of the iPhone and the Samsungs and all that, and not have to go to somebody like cellular with consumer cellular. So, that only has a limited amount of phones. This is for folks who, still like their electronics.
Yeah.
That's good.
But you don't want the big jitterbug one where it's the buttons are,
Oh, heck no. Heck no.
So that's very good. Thank you. That's a good pick. So my pick is, as it's June, that means it's hurricane season once again, especially for those of us who live on eastern or southern coasts, especially, and as well as still tornado season for a large section of the interior of the country. So my pick is the Red Cross has a set of mobile apps, or emergency apps, that they make available. They have like first aid and blood donation apps like you'd expect, but they also have several disaster apps, and they have ones for specific disasters like tornado, hurricane, earthquake, or flood that provide both notifications and information. And then there's a more all-inclusive app that covers it all. That gives you notifications for everything. If you live in a really bad place that gets all of those things, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and floods, well, there's a guy named Noah who comes to your house. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
If you happen to live in Sodom and Gomorrah, But one of the nice things about these apps is that they give you alerts. And so, and you could set up alerts for different places. So here in New England, where most of my family live, I have alerts set up for, whether we have severe weather alerts here where I live or where my sister lives in the north of Boston. My other sister lives in Maine. If there's a severe weather alert in these places, I get a notification of that. Or where my wife's family lives, where they live in Austin, Texas, or in Dallas, where they get tornado alerts, we can be alerted that something is going on in those things. In fact, the other day at dinner, we're sitting there having dinner, and all of a sudden my phone gets an air raid siren, and we're like, oh, what's going on? Well, where my in-laws live, Pat Scott, who's also on this program, is my mother-in-law, they had a tornado warning where they are. And so we are able to, we're aware of that there's a situation. We need to be aware of what's going on. We can check in on them later. But one of the nice things, too, is being Catholic, it's also an opportunity to pray for them. And so the whole family stopped around dinner, and we said a prayer for grandma, grandpa, and their aunts and uncles who lived in that area, that they would be safe. And it's a way of being mindful of others. So I have to suggest and recommend these emergency apps from the American Red Cross. And again, if you only want to be concerned about tornadoes or hurricanes or earthquakes, if say you live in California, then you can get the app for that particular disaster type, or you can get the all-inclusive one that's the emergency app. So the only downside is that occasionally I get a lot of notifications for bad thunderstorms in Texas, and that can be that can happen a lot. So you could get a little bit. You have to be careful not to get a little blasé about it. That you have to check when it happens.
No, I second you on that. I've had those Red Cross apps for years, and for those of you who are animal lovers, they also have a pet first aid app. So if you ever have to figure out how to supply first aid to your pet in an emergency situation, it's a handy little app to have.
Right. If you're ever in a first aid situation in general, and you're like, what do you do if someone has sprained an ankle and you're like hiking in the woods? Well, pull up the app and look at it, elevate, and all that sort of stuff. The information is there for you to check out on the ground. Of course, they'll always tell you, and it'll tell you right off the bat, if it's an emergency situation, first call 911 and then check the app.
If you happen to be someplace where you have cell coverage.
Exactly.
Call 911.
Right.
Truly.
Yep. So those are our picks of the week. So before we finish out, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including this week, Paul G., Stephen B., Lawrence S., Nicholas A., and Richard M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows we do at StarQuest. It is really vitally important that we receive your financial support to keep doing this. It is not inexpensive to have all of these shows and to provide you with the quality of coverage of things like we do here. We put in a lot of time and effort to do this for you, and so we really do appreciate those who give us the financial support to do this. You could join them by visiting sqpn.com/give and check it out. We have some nice gifts that we like to give to people at different giving levels as well. You might enjoy something there. So that's it from us. What did you think of our discussion? You can let us know by visiting sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, and leave us some feedback or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you can find all the relevant links, and I have lots of relevant links for today's discussion in our show notes at sqpn.com. Until next time, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
I'm glad to be here, and thank you, Dom.
And Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thank you, Dom. Always a pleasure.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.